I thought I could stay away from this multi-logy, but I can't. So I'm gonna conclude this material for today. So now is the last part of this chronology for today, of course. The founder at history, part 9 and 10. Greetings. We are back already with more on your history. There are two time periods that have held fascination to many of you for a long time, and that is ancient Egypt and the time of Jesus Christ. We will spend a little time on those two sagas now, without forgetting the South American and Native North American stories getting hotter to be given at a later date. The so-called battle between light and dark continued after the destruction of Atlantis. Your world seemed to seesaw between periods of brief enlightenment, followed by times of corruption and relative darkness. Egypt was a case in point. A group of 70 density Pleiadians determined to restore the blueprint of humanity long lost to Orion, Draco, Sirian, Andromedan, and other renegade groups took advantage of the fact that the few survivors of Atlantis were relatively pure in heart and mind. Yeah, and they were really. Those that landed along the Nile River were the first to be visited by the Pleiadian Welcoming Committee. This contingent was headed by a teacher later named Thoth, who, contrary to ancient writings, did not have the head of a bird or reptile. The creature depicted as such was a Draco-Andromedan hybrid who came along much later and corrupted the teachings of Thoth. Oh dear. Thoth was a radiant being of blue-white light, my favorite color, blue-white, a humanoid with similar color and energy to ourselves in the higher realms. He was able to step his vibration down far enough to communicate directly with the descendants of Atlantis and to teach them the ways of truth, cooperation, harmony, and higher mathematics. As many channeled writings will confirm, Thoth was the engineer behind the Great Pyramid. This device served several purposes, but its primary function was an ascension chamber and controller of that grid system. As correctly pointed out by your Egyptologist, it was aligned with Mintaka, the central star in Orion's belt. Mintaka became the central point in Orion's enlightened government following the resolution of the regional Betelgeuse War. About the Rigo-Betelgeuse Wars about 100,000 years ago. Mintaka also had geographical and geological significance in that it indicated a central access point of Earth's precession of grand cycles, occurring every 25,920 years approximately. The grid system of Earth was correlated with the point at Giza Giza being the center of the grid, and ley lines and vortexes coming off at various secret geometric angles therefrom. The Martians, during their heyday, had a system, uh, similar grid system constructed at the same latitude and longitude on the planet, also engineered by 70 density Pleiadians. But alas, it never showed its potential as a portal for ascension, due to interference from Orion and Draco factions. Another strategic purpose of the Great Pyramid was to serve as an incoming portal for groups of Pleiadians, so that the purity and vision of the original blueprint would have a fighting chance of getting reestablished or not. Ooh. Todd and his group had a fair degree of success in working with the Atlanteans to construct temples of initiation and soul evolution along the banks of the Nile. What for have temples of initiation? Is this not the same as you have a doctrine or some form of religion, whatever? Does it differ from religions in a way? Is it spirituality and spiritualism and spirituality to me is almost the same thing. Of the several thousand Atlanteans who made this area their home, a significant percentage took part in the ascension activities and initiations in the Great Pyramid. The 70 density Pleiadians constructed the device in a matter of days. So was the Pleiadians who created the pyramids after all. A matter of days, using levitation and laser technology. I knew already long time ago that they used levitation, laser technology, or could be some servant, some slave that measure about 7 feet tall to make all that thing, and people go, oh wow, how did they do that? How did they construct it? Is true those form. That's how they constructed the pyramids, through levitation, through technology, or the servants were very, very giant and tall. A series of passageways were designed to accommodate those who needed extended periods inside the device in order to accelerate the ascension templates in preparation for moving into the 50 density light bodies. The subterranean chambers beneath the Giza plateau were already inhabited by those who had escaped the underground during previous conflagrations. The Pleiadians, in concert with these underground groups, established the Hall of Record several thousand feet below the Great Pyramid. The Sphinx was later erected by another group of Egyptians to mark the entrance to the portal. The Sphinx was later erected. The pyramid was completed in approximately 10,500 BC. 10,500 is almost 11,000 before Christ. It has only been in the last 20 years that scientists, on your words, have correctly dated the Great Pyramid. Until recently, it was assumed this device was linked to various other pyramids that were constructed using the labor of the Egyptian people. Who knows? To serve as tombs for the pharaohs. Who knows? This channel goes into details in his book, on the lame attempts by late Egyptians to reconstruct the ascension chamber after Egypt had fallen to the Syrians. We will have more on that later. Accounts from adepts of the original mystery schools of thought can be found sporadically in various stone tablets and channeled writings, including the Emerald tablets. Essentially, they document the initiations given to prepare the first DCT souls for ascension into 50 DCT. Ancient Egypt thrived until about 7,500 BC, at which time 70 DCT Syrians from the Sirius B star system arrived on the scene and began unraveling the work of thought in his group. The Christian, Jewish, and Greek legends and myths are all about the Syrians, Sirius B. How about the ascended master? Who are they? If not from Sirius B. If they are not from Sirius B, they are from Sirius 1. A or C. To me, they are just the same thing. Their agenda is just about the same to introduce here system of religion system to better I don't know, divert people from the truth and then make them more fanatics and a slave to a doctrine, into a set of rules. Although these ET factions had great technological and psychic power, they had not resolved their egoic issues satisfactorily, and as a result became infatuated, worshipped and praised by their underling. What's this underling? In other words, they were in a guru trip, to quote a popular phrase. At Posit One Suto, they demonstrated their miraculous powers to those who did not have the spiritual understanding to see through the charade, like, oh, I can revive the dead, I can make the dead alive again, I can make miracle and heal you, I can make the lame walk, and blah 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 blah, blah, you know, all this kind of thing, just to impress people, so that people will go, oh, he really can make miracle, he's a saint, he's a god. As they intermingled and interbred, the DNA of the dissidents become more and more corrupted with their brand of egoistic messiahship. The mystery schools began to devolve into pecking orders and devotion to Syrian gods. Hey, but what's the difference? You say that it thought come and I thought bring this and that. Thought bring mystery school. So what's the difference from the Abrahamic people? And why do you point fingers on like the Abrahamic Semites? What about, no, I mean, yeah, about the Christian and the Jewish and the Greeks. How about the Buddhas, the Vedas, the Hindus? How about the Muslims? Why don't you point finger at them? How about all the others group? All the others spiritualist group, like Afro group of release, like um, Candomblé, all that's for this shoe, all those kind of entities. How about that? Why don't you point finger to them? Because you are behind all that, and then you point fingers at all the I don't know, the Jewish and those Christian. That's not fair. That's not fair. The God of the Old Testament, Jehovah, was a 70 density Syrian. Those of you familiar with Jehovah's teachings, but willing to accept the premise that Jehovah was an agnostical Syrian, and who are not. Yeah, he is, but who's not? You all come also, you also give the, what you say, the mystery school, and then you are now want to point finger. What's the difference between thought and dus? should examine the result of Jehovah's presence on the earth. Not because those one is black, whatever, and the others are more fair skin. This is what discrimination. As stated many times by this channel, the Old Testament is one of the bloodiest and most violent books ever written. Would a highly evolved enlightened being pit one race against another? But who didn't do this through history? All at history is about pit one against another, about war, about emperor, what they call abuse of power, huh? And then you were talking only about the Semites. Why? That's not fair. Would he owe the blind obedience to his priest now? Hey, wait a minute. Since he's talking about Jehovah, right? And then they say that they are the Elohims, so that means they are not the Elohim at all. Because is it not the Jews correlated and involved with the Elohims and the Muslims as well? So they are not the Elohim at all. I believe they are the Luciferian, yeah. They are Luciferian. The Pleiadians are Luciferian, yeah. Bingo. Would he exalt some over others? And who didn't? Who didn't do that? In God's universe, yeah, blah, 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 blah. There are no elite or chosen ones. Oh, but Ella, you said that you have chosen one, that somebody, some are chosen to be guarded and some are protected and others not. You also have elitism. You already showed elitism earlier on in your material. Now you are saying that there's no yes, should not have. But who does not apply this rule? Who does not apply those guidelines? Which ethnic group does not apply all those guidelines to their subject? Huh? You does not? I believe that you do. You people, your entities do, not people, entities. Because I feel that you are entity, you're not human. Of course, you are entities. Everyone is chosen and is created in pure love, and says who start from you by apply what you say. Everyone has equal value in the eyes of God, true enough. But who will practice what they say? It doesn't suffice us to talk, but doesn't. If I talk only and I don't apply what I say, what value have in the message I try to pass? I'm being a hypocrite. If I come here, I preach, but I turn around and I do another thing. That's stupid. That's hypocrite to me, and I lie. And that value is infinite. Biblical scholars, Jewish and Christian clerics on your word need to go back to basics and examine the results of unscientific teachings. Whatever, do they know about the Muslims, the Buddha, the Taoists, all that, the Hindus? Why don't you talk about them? You know, I'm not a Jewish, I'm not a Christian, but I don't like those beings to take uh, point finger to one inside another, you know, because I'm a person who is impartial. I don't like to be partial. I'm impartial. If you blame that person, you criticize one side, I defend them. And if you criticize another, I defend that side. I'm like this. Jewish and Christian clerics on the world need to go back to basics. What a nonsense. If they say Jewish, um, Muslim, Christian, because also the Muslims are what? They are Abrahamic too. They are Abrahamic. They belong to the same group of Abrahamic branch of religions. If they put the Muslim, they include the Muslim and say, yeah, you're right. If they don't, I say, you are a big hypocrite. These are big buggers. You are a buggers. And if you talk also about Taoist, you talk about Buddhist and Vedas, the Eastern system of religions, or doctrine, whatever, spirituality. I would say, yeah, you're right. At least you are not partial. You are being impartial. However, if you take sides, you are being partial, and I cannot tolerate it. And I don't care who you are, and you are not a god to me. Okay, you are not a god to me, and I don't care a heck. Did they promote peace and evolution of ordinancy? Examine the results of scientific teachings. Did they promote peace and evolution of war? And did the others also promote? Huh? Honestly, they haven't. Precisely not. Or did they promote division and conflict? We, the founders, seldom preach. Oh no, you just point finger. But this point is too important to let pass. Now on with the show. We return you to Egypt during its fall into worship and sacrifice. At the same time as the Syrian invasion after 7,500 before Christ, the Orions and Dracos began arriving on the scene, and a degree of interbreeding ensued, resulting in men of the partly reptilian, partly avian, partly human form of Kobazar. His name was Kobazar, the great albino dragon from the house of Alni. Form depicted in later Egyptian drawings, the bird people were a hybrid Draco-Andromedan race, the result of creativity and engineering, and they attempted to land the native forms on the earth with partial success. They, like the Syrians, used their superior technology and psychic powers to enslave the docile inhabitants of Egypt. You can find drawings of the Syrian and Draco Andromedan gods on the walls of caves throughout Egypt. The pure in heart and mighty, seeing the experiment once again go awry, sadly retreated back to the inner planes. In a period of relative darkness, descended over Egypt. The ritual sacrifices, mummies, and mystery schools of the pharaohs were all the manifestation of Syrian, Orion, Draco, and Andromedan corruption. Wait a minute, I thought that for them Orions in Syrian was okay, and even this Arcturian. How come now they are pontificative Syrians, Orions, and Andromedans? I don't understand all this really. Of the original Pleiadians teachings, corruption of, oh no, please, something wrong here. Very, very wrong. Had the teachings of the thoughts been fully integrated by his students, they never would have been corruptible. The lesson here should be obvious by now. Unless you have fully integrated your ego and higher consciousness, my God, if you say that you are the best, you are the only kid on the block, you are the maker, you are the founders, you are the creators, you are this and that, and left the others aside, then you are not being egoistical. What? Huh? You are not being egoistic or what? If I say that only I am good, only I is the best, only I am the superior one and others are below me, am I not be egoistic myself? Surely I do. My goodness, what a hypocrisy. You can be led astray by simile like you are here. I am see here people who are being partial. Implication is being partial, partial, instead of it being partial. You can be led astray by seemingly well-meaning teachers who themselves have not integrated their egos with the spirit. I don't know what to think. That's why I take no side at all. I stay always on the center, just examining. I take no sides from you all, among you all. Though it's a mess, mess, all this creation, mess. The Founders on Earth History Part 10. Greetings once again, we are the founders. Let us recap and say a few words about the story so far. As many of you know, we have left a lot out and skipped some major periods and events. This for the sake of brevity. If this channel is willing, we will include these missing pieces in an upcoming book. We have enough information to fill several books, and we feel it is vital that this material be disseminated as you approach the next grand cycle. We will have a special discussion on the implication of cosmic cycles in the near future. We have not touched on the significance of the ancient Hebrew teachings, the tree of life, Kabbalah, or other aspects of the higher teachings brought forth since the time of Atlantis by various enlightened members of the Pleiadians, Andromedan, Syrian. How come they now, before he talk about Andromeda, now he's saying enlightened members of the Pleiadian, Andromeda, Syrian, Orion, Arcturians, and other groups? It's a very bipolar thought. We have also very little to say about the Galactic Confederation, the Great White Brotherhood, the angelic, archangelic orders, or the archangelic order, and the universal order, including the order of Melchizedek, which belongs to Lucifer. This channel has a strong Venusian connection, another ET faction that deserves mention in future segments. I don't know. One 8th density member of the Confederation, in fact, is leading member in this sector of the galaxy, has a special story that we joyfully related below. At this time, we wish to illuminate your minds regarding the real story of Jesus Christ. Real. After all the things that you have said, you are talking about real. Your story is your story. It's not perhaps not the absolute story. I'm sorry. And I'm gonna see to it. It's important to note that the allegorical storyline of one being sacrificed to heal sins of the masses did not originate with the events 2,000 years ago, but is a theme that has been repeated many times throughout history, long before the man you know as Jesus was carried to the cross. If you dig into the history of different cultures, you will find other such icons whose stories are very similar to that of Jesus. The idea that a Savior died for your sins and the playing out of that drama in a form similar to Jesus is an attempt by the Dark Lords to get humanity to place the blame outside of themselves through, in order to keep the problems from being solved. I say that they want to shift the karma in that people. You see, like, oh, you born from original sins. Oh, men born from sins. Men men are those sinners one. Jesus died for our sins. Now we have to worship this being. Poor Jesus Christ, blah blah blah. All this kind of thing. It's just a sort of uh, um, a scheme to actually deceive the foolish mass. Let's get this straight. Nobody can ever die for your sins. True, that's true. That's true. That is true because there's no sin. We are all here to just live nightmare or a dream and then go away, die. Finito. Die. You see, you are not here to because you are sin, and then you are here. Oh, you come here because you have to pay karma. Yeah, you have to pay karma. That's why you're here. Many say, many doctrine, many idiots who think that they know so much is spreading around. We come from how the capella. We come from the capella galaxy, and we are here to pay our karma. We have to walk in our shadow. All this kind of things. People like this think they are smart and intelligent. They have to live more. They have to remember that they have lived more in order to really be worthy of what they say, to be trustworthy. That's for two reasons. First, you have free will and are responsible for everything you do. And second, there's no such a thing as an unpardonable error or an error that causes you to be defective. You are as perfect as the day God created you. That's true. That's very, 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 very true. Now I am inside with them. Yeah, and that they are very true. And you will always be perfect and innocent and holy. Lord Sananda in his book said, A Course in Miracles made that very clear. There are some factual aspects to the story as told in the New Testament of the Bible, but there are many distortions. Allow us to elaborate. The soul known as Jesus was a direct fragment of the Sananda lineage. True. In other words, Sananda was the oversoul of Jesus. Sananda, having watched as humankind once again floundered in sorrow and ignorance, and having a desire to intervene in the affairs of a man in a way that respected free will, incarnated in approximately 39 before Christ, that was Sananda, as the son of Joseph and Mary. This is much in general agreement with the biblical story. Jesus' birth date was approximately March 31. That makes him what? He was a Taurus man or Aries? Lord Sananda, in 80 the city celestial being, incarnated as Yeshua or Joshua or Yahshua, depending on whose translation you use. Aramaic Joshua. Being from 80 density, he retained many of his spiritual abilities, despite the very dense environment he was born into. As a young child, he was very psychic and foresaw many of the events that would later come to pass. So he was a Taurus or Arian. that would later come to pass. Mary and Joseph were at the odds with the political establishment to some degree, and they were not married when Mary became pregnant. This one everybody knows. The virgin birth story made up. She really had sex with the man, and then Jesus come about. So the Virgin Mary is all the nonsense. Certain ET factions have the capabilities of impregnating women, yet it's true, without going through normal sexual means. But in this case, Yeshua came in through normal means. This means a man and a woman have intercourse. Okay, so she was not a virgin after all. To avoid the social and political consequences of giving birth out of wedlock, and to remove themselves from the oppressive beliefs of the authorities, Mariam and Yusuf migrated toward Galilee, and eventually near the Dead Sea, where they briefly took refuge with the Essenes. Mariam and Yusuf left Joshua in the care and returned to Galilee. Yeshua later joined the Essene order. He spent 3 years building temples and housing for the Essenes, while attending their sacred teaching and learning the Essene way along the banks of the Dead Sea. Joshua learned to have respect for Mother Earth and had a hand in helping bring the much needed rain, scarce in their region. The Essenes were strict vegetarians and taught a respect for all life forms. Very beautiful. They were regarded as strange and anti-social by the governments of the land. So that was the true story of Jesus after all, and you all Christians need to see that. But were left largely alone, as they seemed to pose no threat, and always paid their taxes even though they did not believe in such matters. When Joshua turned about 16, he and a group of fellow Essenes traveled east to India. That's the same story I heard, where he met several Indian gurus and saints. He studied for about 2 years with a guru who taught him a great deal about the mysteries of life, and also Jesus could transport himself through what looked like a straw underneath the ground from one continent to another. When he returned during a dangerous visit to see his parents in Galilee, he met and fell in love. See, he was not a virgin after all, neither him nor his mother, but just common humans like me and you. He met and fell in love with Maria Magdalena, who was a dancer and entertainer too, and only very briefly prostituted herself when times were tough. That's the truth people don't want to accept. Mariam and Joshua were deeply in love with each other and had a child. Because they were not married, they too became social outlaws. Some of Joshua's Essene friends allowed Miriam M. to stay at the temples with Joshua against the rules of the elders. Joshua and Maria Magdalena and their young son traveled to India a second time, where the child was blessed by the gurus. Word got out that Mariam M. had an illegitimate child, although nobody seemed to know the father outside of these sinners. Fearing for the child's life, Maria Magdalene and Joshua left the child temporarily in the care of an Indian saint and returned to Galilee. It was a few years later before they could return to India, and although they missed their son terribly, they knew he was all right. Maria Magdalene and Joshua paid another visit to their son a few years later, but he remained in the care of the Indian saints when they returned. The political climate was too unstable to risk bringing the child back with them to Galilee. Despite the short time they spent with their son, their influence helped him greatly as he grew up in India. Their son became a wise sage, and his teachings added significantly to the climate of India. Joshua received several. Oh, so I think that his son then could be Sananda. Joshua received several visions from his spirit. Joshua received several visions from his spirit and his soul family, and was told to teach higher spiritual principles to anyone who would listen sincerely. He began teaching earnestly in his late 20s and gathered quite a following. At one point, he had about 50 disciples. He and Maria Mem kept their relationship and child a complete secret, not even discussing this with the closest disciples. Being highly clairvoyant, Yeshua saw that the authorities would eventually kill him, but he was told by his own God self to stay his course and teach as many people as possible the ways of his spirit. Yeshua's teachings were highly distorted in the Bible, but a few truths managed to get through. He taught that we are all created in the image and likeness of our Creator, and that we all have the abilities he demonstrated. He taught us to love one another and to forgive our enemies. He did not teach that the way to God was through him. True. Very, very true. Alone. He did not taught that the way to God was through him alone. Several of his disciples learned how to use their spiritual gifts of healing and clairvoyance. And there are ample stories in the Bible of John going on to perform similar healings. The story of Yeshua's involvement in the Melchizedek priesthood is also in the Bible. In Hebrews chapter 7, once Yeshua reached a certain level of oneness, his cosmic family in the celestial realms began communication with him and reminding him of his position within the Melchizedek priesthood. When Joshua was brought to the cross, he immediately left his body consciously. Hey, but you skipped the part why he went to the cross. Why and how? He left his body consciously, said of his suffering for 3 days, as he taught erroneously. During his life, he continually forgave them, for they knew not what they did. After leaving his body, he holographically projected himself back into human form to appear to his disciples and Maria Magdalene on numerous occasions. The body left the tomb because grave robbers stole it. He had no need to resurrect it, as he was already able to materialize a new body once he returned to aid the city. But I saw his tomb and he pointed it there and he cried. It was in Mount Olive. Lord Sananda has fragmented his soul several more times throughout history. At the present time, there are 80 fragments of Sananda on the earth. Some of these souls believe they are Jesus, and to a certain extent, they are correct. All great souls are capable of fragmenting themselves dozens of times in order to do service work on lower density planets. Usually over souls fragmenting 12 souls at a time. But this is not set in stone. Many fragments remain in the higher densities to guide the fragments in the lower worlds. The term fragment does not mean incomplete or partial. Each of these fragments is complete and sovereign being. This channel uses the cell-dividing analogy to explain this in his writings. The second coming of Christ refers to the return to Christ consciousness, or the celestial consciousness of higher densities. This was correctly interpreted by your Paramahansa Yogananda and many other yogis and saints. As most of you know, traditional Christianity has very little to do with the teachings of Yeshua, and a whole lot to do with sin and guilt. Fortunately, many souls are expanding their worldliness beyond these primitive beliefs. We, the founders, are grateful to see so many truly doing the greater works that Yeshua taught. During this brief look at the work of Yeshua, we only touched briefly on Maria M. and the Divine Feminine, and spoke hardly a word about Mother Maria. There are numerous channeled articles on these beings, and do not wish to duplicate the information. Maria Mati, I don't think that lady who gave birth to this Joshua has nothing to do with Mother Mary or whatever. We hope we have set the record straight on the lifetime of the one you call Jesus. We are the founders. And that's it. Only that. They don't explain why he died. If it were true that the Romans killed him, nobody explained. Everything was quoted here I already knew. And I don't know, many things was left unsaid. There was more thing that they are not saying. Because I heard that Jesus did not die in Israel, whatever. He died outside, and he lived most of his part in India, and he could travel in tunnels under the earth to another, from dislocate from one place to another. And that he had a son, and this son eventually moved to Europe, and some of his lineage is in the royal family of Europe. Okay, that's what I know about this man. And what I know about him is that he had been pestering me since I was about 10 years. 10? No. I was 10 years old when he started pestering me. And up the time when I grew older and married, he still keep on coming to me. No, he stopped. And no, he was not nice being. I cannot say whether that being that I saw and he was not like this is wrong. He looked like an Arab man, and he's much uglier. His skin is much darker, but he's not black. He's not brown. He's like, I don't know how to say that color of his skin, like a Jewish or Arab, whatever. Okay, he's not white. He's not black. Maria Magdalene was a blondie woman, I heard. And that's why their son was lighter skin, but he wasn't. Because I ever saw this man and he was not like this. He's much uglier. His hair is much darker, very dry, same length. He got that brutish Arabic face. So many things was not told here. Many things that they are hiding because they thought there's not the right time to tell. Okay, but there's many things that they are not saying here. Not about Jehovah, not about Jesus, whatever. They are not saying. So all this is half truth.